The triple-layered business model canvas. Alexandre Joyce, Raymond Paquin and Yves Pigneur introduced the triple-layer business model at the first ARTEM Organisational Creativity International Conference, which was held from the 26th to the 27th of March 2015 in Nancy, France. The three scholars' paper, The Triple-Layered Business Model Canvas, a tool to design more sustainable business models, discusses the simultaneous improvement of a business model for economic, environmental and social benefits. The triple-layer sustainable business model elaborates on the one-layer business model canvas, which Alex Osterwalder and Yves Pigneur published in 2010. You can see the one-layer business canvas model on this channel. The link is placed below the film. A sustainable business model adds environmental and social layers to the economic layer, all three of which influence each other interactively. Far from being a mere obligation, the social and environmental dimensions offer fertile ground for innovation and the discovery of new possibilities. The triple-layered business model aims to support organizations that wish to innovate upon their current business models and create more sustainable business models. Let's look at the model's construction. The model is composed of three layers: the blue layer, which is the economic business model canvas, the green layer, which is the environmental life cycle business model canvas, and the orange layer, which is the social stakeholder business model canvas. All three model layers contain 9 elements called building blocks. Following is a review of the individual layers. However, as it is a holistic model, the other 2 layers will be referenced within the separate layers. The blue layer is the familiar economic business model canvas. We will not discuss the 9 building blocks of the economic layer here, as the film mentioned earlier provides an overview. At its core, this layer is about profit. You want the revenue streams to exceed the cost structure in the short and long run. Otherwise, your organization will not survive. The environmental life cycle business model canvas, the green layer, is the second layer. We will examine the 9 building blocks within the green layer. Understanding the entities upon which the life cycle business model is founded is essential. Therefore, starting with the building block functional value is logical. This functional unit quantitatively describes the service performance or the needs fulfilled in the investigated product system. Ultimately, the functional value declares what can be measured, and then serves as a baseline for comparing alternative business models. The building block materials refers to any biophysical stocks purchased and used by the organization. They correspond to the building block key resources in the original business model canvas. The building block of production deals with the process of creating value from materials. In the original business model canvas, key activities describe the organization's actions to create value. Production is a separate entity in the environmental life cycle canvas, as it significantly influences sustainability in many areas. The building block supplies and outsourcing encompasses all the material resources and production activities that are not considered part of the core business. Similarly to the original business model canvas, there is a distinction between in-house resources or activities and those outsourced to key partners. The same distinction applies here in the environmental life cycle canvas model. The building block distribution is about delivering the product to the customer. Once the product in the functional value building block and the building block value proposition is ready for delivery, it is distributed through channels using various transportation methods and packaging solutions. For the transportation aspect, the factors to be considered are the type of transportation, the distance travelled, and the weight or volume transported. The packaging also has a life cycle that can be taken into account in the distribution process, if relevant. The building block use phase is about the resources required to use, maintain, and repair the product. For service providers, the use phase also requires material and energy consumption, although in more subtle forms. Some service offerings blur the line between the service's production and use phase. The building block end of life is about how the product is recycled after its useful life. The end of life begins when the client chooses to end the consumption of the value proposition. For tangible products, options include remanufacturing, repurposing, recycling, disassembly, incineration, or disposal. The end of life of the environmental cycle is linked to the customer relationship of the original business model canvas. This enforces the idea that organizations should have a more significant responsibility in managing the end of life of their value proposition. A solid link to the block value proposition exists when an organization advocates for product recycling and endorses a collection system. Good customer relations are necessary to achieve this. The building block environmental impacts is about the overall impact on the environment. From the economic perspective of a business model, the bottom line amounts to a single monetary indicator. When translated into environmental terms, multiple indicators can attest to the impacts of human activity on the Earth. Indicators include carbon footprint, waste management, and water and energy consumption. Life cycle assessment research tries to create a common denominator for grouping various indicators into a meta-indicator. The building block environmental benefits represents the improvements made to the conditions for life on Earth to flourish. A vision for the future hopes organizations can regenerate ecosystems and present environmental benefits in absolute terms. However, few human actions actually benefit the environment. Therefore, we describe environmental benefits as relative savings or reductions using the same meta-indicators for environmental impacts. The social stakeholder business model canvas, the orange layer, is the third and last layer. Various approaches can be used to analyze the stakeholder layer, which fundamentally depends on how the provided social value is interpreted. We start with the central building block, social value. This aspect encompasses the organization's purpose, mission, and vision to improve the world. Its aim extends beyond mere economic survival. The organization's mission should contribute to global betterment. The building block employees represents the working conditions and personal growth initiatives for people working with the organization. There are many human resource strategies to ensure employees experience a positive workplace, such as unions and social packages. Conversely, to respect the Declaration of Human Rights, some basic health and safety measures should be addressed in all organizations. You must ensure your employees are content and adequately trained to perform their duties. In the single-layer economic business model, employees were one of the key resources. In this three-layer model, employees are included as an independent building block. The building block governance is a significant topic that captures the organizational structure and leadership approach. A cooperative, a privately owned business, and a public company on the stock exchange all have different organizational structures and strategies for accomplishing their mission. Moreover, their hierarchy can range from a flat structure to an authoritarian approach. All this affects how they carry out their activities in the blue business layer and their production in the green environmental life cycle layer. The local communities that harbour the organisation are stakeholders in the business model. First to be considered is the relationship with the community where the organisation has its headquarters. The local community element also includes the suppliers and their communities. Even if they are far apart geographically, the business relationship between the suppliers and the client organisation requires mutual attention. You can ask yourself, do you engage in transactional or collaborative relationships with your suppliers and partners? Do you want to get involved in your business partner's daily life or maintain an arm's length relationship? The societal culture building block is about recognizing an organization's societal efforts. An organization's societal culture can be filled with positive values, such as promoting diversity and accountability, or negative values, such as supporting inequality or short-term thinking. The building block scale of outreach describes the depth of the organization's relationships with its stakeholders. The scale of outreach can be considered in terms of time and space, creating a psychological attachment, or breaking ethical or cultural barriers. The end user building block concerns the person who consumes the offering. This element concerns how the value proposition in the blue economic layer addresses the end user's needs and contributes to this person's quality of life. Users with similar needs can be grouped in common terms such as youth, seniors, families, etc. The end user is not always the same person as the customer in the blue economic layer. The ones who pay are not always the ones who use the product or service. In the social stakeholder business model canvas, the indicators of social impacts are not easily identifiable, let alone quantifiable. Social impact indicators include working hours, cultural heritage, health and safety, community engagement, fair competition, respect for intellectual property rights, etc. Depending on the issue, a performance indicator can be chosen or even created to measure the progress on that front. The building block social benefits encompasses the collection of improvements to individuals' quality of life. This could mean improvements in health, nourishment, emotional state, well-being, freedom, and more. Like social impacts, social benefits are measured in multiple indicators to be established in line with the organization's purpose. The big picture. The core concept of the sustainable business model is to establish harmony among the three layers by mutually influencing each other. It is crucial to view the social and environmental layers not as burdens, but as platforms for innovation and new opportunities. Concurrently, the sustainable business model serves as a mechanism for dynamic operation, where each building block affects its counterpart in a different layer. The triple-layered business model canvas tool can serve three purposes. First, it can serve as a representation to ensure all the elements are considered, and then to understand the whole. The triple-layered business model canvas visually supports designing new business models collaboratively. Second, the triple-layered business model canvas can serve as a generative tool by changing individual elements and cascading the consequences to render the whole coherent with new avenues. Third, it can serve as a validation tool. One can add up or balance the costs versus revenues and impacts versus benefits, which can be done qualitatively or quantitatively. The model is suitable for aligning members of your organization around your mission of bringing good to the world. It is a good tool for getting organization members to see new contexts and thus new business opportunities. Use the model in the initial stages of idea generation to determine where the organization is going. It is recommended that the model be used in workshops dealing with innovation or new business concepts. It isn't easy to give a general example of how the model can be used. All organizations will have their own approaches to the 3 layers. However, we will provide an example from our organization, Flixabout. We have chosen the 3 value blocks that are vertically connected: value proposition, which is the value we give to customers; functional value, which is how we make the product available; and social value, which is our mission with the channel. Even if the single blue layer of the economic business model canvas has been completed once, it is advisable to begin anew with the 3-layer model to ensure comprehensive coverage. We are placing our mission in the social value block in the orange layer, Social Stakeholder Business Model Canvas. Our mission is to allow everyone to see and hear about the most used models and theories within management, communication, innovation and marketing, regardless of time and place. This mission directly influences the functional value and the value proposition building blocks. We begin with the blue layer's building block, value proposition. The value for users is a theoretically correct introduction and review of different models usable in their learning context. The messages in the first 2 blocks entail several requirements for the last block, the functional value, in the green layer. The product must be on a free platform. The language must be international and spoken so clearly that it can be translated automatically. The speech must not contain difficult to translate sayings. The film must be of a quality that enables playback in a lower resolution, as not everyone has a good internet connection. Those 3 building blocks are vertically connected, but are also connected horizontally to the rest of the building blocks in each layer, which are again linked vertically. We will not go further with this example as it is an extensive process. You have to fill out every building block, and they have to be in sync with each other. A change in the content of one building block cascades through the blocks in all 3 layers. Let us now consider a criticism of the model. Some standard units of measurement and how they should be calculated are missing in the 2 new layers. It can be challenging to see in which layers, and then in which block, information should be placed. Getting stakeholders inside and outside the organization to approach the world with a common culture is a big job. There are no guarantees that business model transformation will ensure sustainability. The advantage of working with the triple-layered business model tool is that it illuminates relationships that would otherwise go unnoticed in the original business model canvas.